How you doing? This is Storm Talk. No, I'm only kidding. It's really, I was hoping for real good rain, but you know how it goes. Man. Well, we're lucky. It passed us, and life goes on. But the guys on the news stations, they earn their keep. It's just instilling as much fear as possible in all of us. And deception in an ad to get what people want. This is not a bill to ban farming. This is a bill to stop GMOs and how they deal with them. Oh, so many people are going to be put out of work, and then the people from the UH say, "Oh, it's proven this is so." Liars and cheats. The Fred Perlacks of the world are all over the place. I pray and pray and pray that that bill passes. And I pray that Monsanto and the biotech industry gets their ocolis out of Hawaii. You want to plant genetically modified crap? Do it in a greenhouse. Do it in a warehouse, but not outside where the winds will blow your seeds over to another farm and then you sue the guy for theft. This is criminal. This is so criminal. These people, you got the people, the Muslims, right? They're going around beheading people. They should go and visit Monsanto and do what they do best. And I don't think anybody's going to get upset. Well, you would get upset. But the point, and I don't mean that seriously, but the point is, I hope and I pray that the people on Maui don't fall for that crap and they pass that bill. Okay, I want to talk about some stuff. Do you have any idea how the American people are duped into shoveling huge amounts of unhealthy food into their bodies? Seriously, nobody needs to eat livestock to survive. Yet, the meat is almost universally the focus of the Western diet. So you go to a restaurant and the waiter says, well, he asks you what you're going to have, and you respond with the meat or fish entree. You don't say, oh, I'd like the asparagus or the rice or the mixed veggies, right? So because everything else on the menu is known as a side dish, or is even regarded as an afterthought. I mean, look at Arby's. Arby's even advertises mega meat stacks and meats upon meats upon meats. And this is pure insanity on a global scale. So the average American eats between 2 and 5 times more protein than they actually need. And we eat animals either because we want to or because we're duped into it by the big agriculture empire. In the last 50 years worldwide, meat consumption per capita has doubled, primarily because of corporate advertising. So Carl's Jr., they put this scantily clad supermodel eating a monster hamburger and dripping it all over herself, and subconsciously men think that if they eat a hamburger, it's going to lead to sex with that supermodel. McDonald's spends about $1.4 billion a year trying to convince us to worship at their cathedral of cholesterol. The rest of the meat and dairy industries spend amazing amounts of money in television and magazine advertising every year to convince us that the key to happiness is eating huge amounts of cow meat, cheese, milk, eggs, chicken, and other sort of American animal products. So the amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, can be synthesized by the body or ingested from food. There are 20 different amino acids in the food that we eat, but our body can only make 11 of them. So the 9 essential amino acids, which cannot be produced by the body, have to be obtained from the diet. So if you take a variety of grains and legumes and vegetables, they can provide all of the essential amino acids that the body requires. No one needs to eat meat to satisfy protein needs. And plant-based proteins don't even have saturated fat and are usually lower in calories anyway. So what happens when you eat too much protein? Well, excess nitrogen is digested and metabolized. And this can strain the kidneys. The kidneys expel the waste through the urine. So over time, individuals who consume large amounts of animal protein risk further loss of kidney function if their kidney function is already impaired. So the problem is that the mild loss of kidney function is usually silent, affecting 20 million people, and they're likely unaware of the increased risk. Now, certain proteins in meat and fish and poultry, cooked at high temperatures, especially grilled or fried, produce compounds called heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These substances have been linked to various cancers, including those of the colon and breast. So the manly ritual of barbecuing mountains of meat on the backyard grill or while tailgating before a football game is basically a personal health disaster. The average American meathead pours 100 pounds of animal fats into his or her arteries every year. The consequences that arise are the development of atherosclerotic vascular disease like heart attacks and strokes, and it also plays a role in the development of cancer. So, in order to absorb fat, the liver makes bile and it stores in the gallbladder. So after a meal, the gallbladder sends the bile acids into the intestines where they chemically modify the fats eaten so they can be absorbed. Unfortunately, bacteria in the intestine turn those bile acids into cancer-promoting substances called secondary bile acids. So meat not only contains a substantial amount of fat, they also foster the growth of bacteria that cause carcinogenic secondary bile acids to form. Red meat is bad for your health in any amount. There was this long-range study from the Harvard School of Public Health that involved 110,000 adults over 20 years. And it found that adding just 1 3-ounce serving of unprocessed red meat to their daily diet increased the participants' risk of dying during the study by 13%. Adding a hot dog or 2 slices of bacon increased the risk by 20%. So if you replace beef or pork with nuts, it lowers your risk by 19%, and replacing them with poultry or grain lowers the risk by 14%. The problem with poultry is it's covered in doo-doo, so I don't know. You want to go through your life eating doo-doo, that's your business. So red meat, regardless of whether it's covered in those the HCAs and the PAHs, is also linked to breast, kidney, pancreatic, prostate, and colorectal cancer, and to diabetes. And you take a look at the Seventh-day Adventists who are vegetarians, they have about half the normal cancer risk. So the only organisms higher on the food chain than cattle are humans. That means that all meat, especially beef, has much higher levels of pesticides and industrial chemicals than any plant food. But Monsanto and the biotech industry are competing with them, and they are trying to give us more poison than we can get anywhere else. So not only are the chemicals given to commercially raised livestock a toxic stew, but the overwhelming majority of the grains fed to livestock are GMOs, which means they're soaked in pesticides. So the National Research Council of the National Academy of Sciences considers beef to be the most dangerous food in herbicide contamination and ranks it third in insecticide contamination. Furthermore, they estimate that beef pesticide contamination represents about 11% of the cancer risk from pesticides of all foods on the market. So the most common agricultural pesticide in use today is glyphosate, or Roundup. And the residues of glyphosate cannot be removed by washing, and they're not broken down by cooking. The glyphosate residues can remain stable in food for a year or more, even if the foods are frozen, dried, or processed. So in a complete sop to Monsanto and the big agriculture, the EPA, the Environmental Pollution Agency, recently raised the allowable limit for glyphosate residue in human food and animal food to a level 200 times higher, from 1 milligram per kilogram to 20 milligrams per kilogram, with no scientific justification or data to defend such a change. Believe it or not, it's a level that even Monsanto considered extreme. And that was back in 1999. So the studies implicating Roundup in a wide array of adverse health outcomes has been rapidly mounting. There was a study in January of this year published by this German research team that found that glyphosate was significantly higher in the urine of chronically ill people compared to healthy people. And the German researchers leading the University of Leipzig study concluded the presence of glyphosate residues in both humans and animals could haul the entire population towards numerous health hazards. Even grass-fed beef are now eating genetically modified alfalfa and corn, meaning more pesticides in the beef itself. And the animal feed that contains the animal parts or the animal waste, as is often the case, only compounds the problem. And if you ask, how can an animal eat an animal? What do you think they do with the dead, dying, diseased, and decayed animals? You think they throw them in a trash bin? No. They grind them up and they put them in the animal feed. So for reasons similar to those for meat, the fat in dairy food poses a high risk of contamination by pesticides, growth hormones, antibiotics. They're found in commercial milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, and all that other crap. Then dioxins are probably the most deadly group of compounds in our environment after the radioactive isotopes. So the World Health Organization said that the dioxins can cause reproductive and developmental problems, damage the immune system, interfere with hormones, and also cause cancer. So dioxins are found throughout the world, and they accumulate in the food chain, mainly in the fatty tissues of animals, where their half-life is between 7 and 11 years. So 93% of the average American's exposure to dioxins comes through animal fat, meat, and dairy consumption. Now, virtually all the feedlot-raised cattle are administered growth hormones and antibiotics like penicillin and tetracycline. About 80% of the antibiotics sold in the United States go to livestock. The antibiotics are used not only for bacterial protection, given the putrid conditions that the livestock is kept in, but also because they fatten them up. Now, this should prompt a question in your mind about what are those antibiotics doing to you when you eat those same livestock. There's been so many experiments on humans dating back to the 50s that have shown that humans gain weight when fed a steady diet of antibiotics. Now, this has potential implications for the worldwide obesity epidemic, and you should provide food for thought. Next time you order a thick and juicy Carl's Jr. and expect it to be your ticket to becoming a supermodel, no. No one seems to have studied whether the residual low doses of antibiotics in livestock meat are enough to make you gain weight. But there is evidence that those doses are sufficient to disrupt the normal composition of your gut bacteria, increasing your susceptibility to infections. It's an almost annual occurrence that massive amounts of ground beef are recalled because of E. coli contamination. Last year, the largest recall in the last 6 years occurred. Almost 2 million pounds of ground beef were recalled from 10 different states. And you know what? Federal officials are not required to say which restaurants served the tainted hamburgers. So here's a little bit more unappetizing food for thought. There is now an unfathomable potpourri of toxins fed to livestock. It's almost like livestock, especially cattle, are now being used as toxic waste dumps. There was, in 1997, there was this article that was published, I don't know, in the Associated Press somewhere that revealed some hideous examples. One said that in Gore, Oklahoma, a uranium processing plant gets rid of low-level radioactive waste by licensing it as a liquid fertilizer and spraying it over 9,000 acres of grazing land. Seriously. At Camas, Washington, lead-laced waste from a pump mill is hauled to farms and spread over crop destined for livestock feed. See, all this is just like what they're doing with fluoride. In Moxie City, Washington, dark powder from 2 Oregon steel mills is poured from rail cars into silos at Bay Zinc Company under a federal hazardous waste storage permit. Then it is emptied from the silos for use as a fertilizer. The newspaper called the paper a toxic byproduct of steel making, but did not identify it. And they said, when it goes into our silo, it's a hazardous waste. When it comes out of the silo, it is no longer regulated. See, it's the same crap. It's just like fluoride. Fluoride is the toxic waste product that they would have spent millions on to dispose of. But no. Politics and money turned it around. And the dick that's the guy who's our head of the health department here, Mark Greer, you have never, ever, ever found a bigger, cheaper, worse hooker than that man. Federal and state governments encourage this recycling, which saves money for the industry and conserves space into hazardous waste landfill. The substances that are found in the recycled fertilizers, you ready? Cadmium, lead, arsenic, radioactive materials, and dioxins. And the waste come from the incineration of medical and municipal wastes and from heavy industries including mining, smelting, cement, and wood. Seriously. Nutrition and Health reported back in 1981 that some ranchers in the Midwest were feeding their steers hundreds of pounds of cement dust to get their weight up so they can make more money when they sold them. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, was asked to stop the practice, but after investigation they said that since there's been no indication of harm to humans, the practice can continue until such time as harm is proven. This is what we are up against. Then there was a good guy, Jeremy Rifkin, who wrote a book called Beyond Beef. He wrote that book in 1992. And listen to what he says. And this is a quote from the book. Some feedlots have begun research trials adding cardboard, newspaper, and sawdust to the feeding programs to reduce costs. Other factory farms scrape up the manure from chicken houses and pig pens, adding it directly to cattle feed. Cement dust may become a particularly attractive feed supplement in the future, according to the USDA, because it produces a 30% faster weight gain than cattle on only regular food. The FDA officials say that it is not uncommon for some feedlot operators to mix industrial sewage and oils into the feed to reduce costs and fatten the animals more quickly. At Kansas State University, scientists have experimented with plastic feed, small pellets containing 80 to 90% ethylene and 10 to 20% propylene as an artificial form of cheap roughage to feed cattle. Researchers point to the extra savings of using the new plastic feed at slaughter time, when upward of 20 pounds of the starch from each cow's rumen can be recovered, melted down, and recycled into new pellets. And the new pellets are much more cheaper than hay and can provide roughage requirements at significant savings. Are you shitting me? Do you see what's happening? And you guys eat this? And like the ubiquitous plastic nurdles that now contaminate the oceans, these plastic pellets absorb chemicals from the environment and become more toxic over time? Look, once a cow has been killed, the next stage of doctoring up the carcass begins. Immediately after the meat becomes exposed to air, oxidation begins, which gradually turns the red color to a more unappetizing brown or gray color within a few days. But meat in the grocery store never looks like that, because it then becomes more artificially enhanced than all the silicone breasts in Hollywood. Meat on the store shelves can be subject to temperatures too high to prevent bacterial growth from spoiling. So the industry invented modified atmosphere packaging, MAP. This is a euphemism meaning that the meat was packaged in an artificial atmosphere of carbon monoxide. As much as 70% of meat sold in the stores is displayed in this carbon monoxide packaging. The oxygen in the package is sucked out and replaced by the carbon monoxide, which is the same carbon monoxide that's emitted from tailpipes on cars, chimneys, space heaters, and charcoal grills that in high enough concentrations will kill you. The carbon monoxide reacts with the myoglobin in the blood, giving the meat a bright red, the same artificial red color that a victim of carbon monoxide poisoning has when they arrive in the emergency room. So carbon monoxide can keep a piece of meat or fish looking artificially red and fresh for up to a full year. And of course, how a piece of meat looks is the primary consideration of a trick. So eating carbon monoxide does not have the same health consequence as inhaling it. But don't make any mistake, the purpose of carbon monoxide packaging is to fool the tricks into believing that the meat they buy is fresh. The normal physical evidence of spoilage is masked almost no matter how old it really is. And therein lies the danger of using carbon monoxide packaging. So this practice is not allowed in many countries like the European Union member states, but in another capitulation to the big ag empire, the FDA has approved the practice. So processed meats like bacon and salami and bologna and turkey and all these lunch meats and hot dogs and red meat and frozen proposed and prepared dinners and nearly all red meats sold in the public schools, the restaurants, the hospitals, the hotels, the theme parks, they're mixed with sodium nitrate, which acts as a preservative and an antibacterial agent. Well, once you digest this, the sodium nitrites can be converted into nitrosamines, which are carcinogens. And the AMA, the American Moron Association, says the sodium nitrates can lead to oral, gastrointestinal, pancreatic, and brain cancer. But if you come to us, we'll cut it out, and you'll live for at least another 5 years before you die. But don't think about that. At least you got 5 more years. Then the USDA tried to ban sodium nitrate in the late 70s. Guess what? That was steamrolled by the meat industry. So it turns out that the slab of meat you think you are eating is more like a fusion of meat scraps held together with something commonly referred to as meat glue, or officially known as transglutaminase. Say that 3 times fast and you can own it. The chemical reaction triggered by the meat glue produces ammonia. So the amount of bacteria on a steak that has been put together with meat glue is hundreds of times higher than an actual steak. If you cook rare what you think is a steak, you may very well be dangerously undercooking the parts of the composite slab that have the highest bacterial content. That's one of the reasons meat glue has been banned in the European Union. Beef, pork, chicken, fish are all fused together to make scraps appear as prime cuts. And unless you are a vegetarian, the overwhelming likelihood is that you are eating meat glue. The McRib sandwich is the quintessential triumph of meat glue. The McRib only appears on McDonald's menu periodically whenever the pork prices are really low. But the McRib has 69 other ingredients, including bonus additives like azodicarbonide, a flour bleaching agent that is most commonly used in the manufacture of foamed plastics in gym mats and the soles of shoes. You see, the wholesalers got lots of tricks up their sleeve. They know how to pump low-grade meat with water and flavoring to make it edible and to weigh more. So if the meat glue doesn't get your mouth watering, then what about the pink slime? Do you remember the high-profile expose of the company Beef Products Inc. that produced pink slime for national hamburger chains that were using the throwaway meat scraps used with ammonium hydroxide, which is an ingredient in fertilizers and household cleaners and some of your roll your own explosives. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to opt up to a grill, of some exploding burgers if your family barbecue could use some excitement? Remember, Beef Products closed 3 of its 4 shameful pink slime plants. Well, guess what? They're reopening. And they got a new name. It's not pink slime anymore. It's lean, finely textured beef. Now you got ground beef containing pink slime, which doesn't need to be labeled thanks to a ruling by the USDA official who later stepped down and immediately joined the executive committee of the Beef Product Inc. company. But this charade involves more than just beef. To make inferior factory farmed chicken look like high quality pasture raised chicken, large scale chicken producers add various dyes and various additives to chicken feed to make their meat appear more yellow and golden. Oh my God, really? So like Atlantic or farmed salmon are fed pink dyes to make their flesh look more appealing than the disgusting gray they would otherwise be. Wait, it gets better. Chicken are routinely fed roxarsone, which is a form of arsenic found in their chicken feed. There was a study in 2004 from the Institute of Agriculture and Trade Policy that showed that more than half of the store-bought and fast food chicken contained elevated levels of arsenic. Oh my God, really? Oh, I never would have believed that. And roughly 2.2 million pounds of it are being used every year to produce 43 billion pounds of poultry. According to the Washington Post, the poultry industry has been using roxarsone to fight parasites and increase growth in chickens since it was approved by the FDA in 1944. It gets better. It just gets better. I'm sure you guys are loving this. Can't wait to go shopping. I get off the air in roughly 20 minutes. Oh my God. So chickens are also fed a frightening elixir of drugs that includes caffeine, banned antibiotics, Benadryl, Tylenol, and even Prozac. Now, Prozac is added to the feed because the stressed out chickens produce tough meat and brutal conditions often mean a constantly nervous bird. So the chickens that are fed coffee pulp and green tea powder to keep them up longer so they can eat more food. And that appeared in the New York Times. So by now, after listening to me, you would probably need some Prozac yourself. Well, there is a solution to combating the destruction and the deception and the health consequences of the meat eating, of the meat industry. Really, there is. It's simple. Stop eating it. You don't need it. None of us do. Your waistline and your arteries and your kidneys will thank you for it. And we just might preserve enough arable land and a livable climate to allow us to grow some real food. And the only way that we can do that is we have to get rid of Monsanto and the biotech industry from polluting the land. And this is why I hope that Maui bill will pass, because it's got to start somewhere. I know these guys pay everybody off. They paid off the entire city council. They've got their people in Hawaii Senate. You got Clarence Nishihara, who for some reason, yes, I want the bill on Maui to pass, which will eliminate the genetically modified crops. Thank you. I'm not as dumb as I look. Yeah. I couldn't possibly be as dumb as I look. Thank you. So what do? How does it work? Where do you start? Oh my God, what am I going to eat? I was coming back recently, and I was sitting on a plane. This guy next to me occupied 2 seats. I was by the window. He had the next 2 seats. I'm serious. Now, I'm not making a joke out of this. And I said to the guy, and we're talking, and, I told him I was vegetarian, and he weighed about 400 pounds, and I weighed about 180 pounds. And he said, I don't know if I could make a change like that. He said, I don't know if I could exist on some peas and carrots and lettuce. I said, what? He said, isn't that what you eat, peas and carrots and lettuce? This guy was going back to Atlanta. I said, no, I eat more than that. He said, but if you eat plant-based food, you eating peas and carrots and lettuce. I said, well, yeah, I'm eating peas and carrots and lettuce, but I'm also eating a lot of other vegetables and a lot of fruits and a lot of whole grains and that are not refined. And I'm eating a lot of really good potatoes and a lot of sweet potatoes. I just don't eat anything that's got fat in it. I don't eat oils anymore. I don't eat any processed foods. I don't drink soda. And I try to keep it as simple as possible. He says, and you're still alive? I said, yeah, I'm still alive. What's so hard? Look, when I went on the air back in 1981, the whole purpose of my doing the radio show was to give you information that you ain't going to read in the newspaper, you're not going to hear it on TV, and certainly the only place on the radio you're going to hear it is with me. And it's the only way that you can become truly healthy. I understand conditioning takes a role. I understand that we're all conditioned and we're all primed and we're all convinced from generations before us that we have to eat a certain way. But a con is a con is a con. And there has to come a time where you have to say, okay, let me try this at least. Let me try it. But I don't think really that people could give up 2 days of not eating something that had a face or a mother or dairy products and eggs, let alone a month or 2 months or 3 months. But if you can, it'll change your health. Now, we talked about years ago that there were certain minerals that were stripped away from us, essential minerals that we need in our body to prevent illness, prevent disease. And one of those minerals we talked about was sulfur. So I got involved in selling a sulfur product. Okay. So what happened was people took a walk on the wild side and they started buying the sulfur. And now, for me personally, selling it to almost 3,000 people, these people are constantly buying it again. And they tell me that their arthritis pain, their arthritic pain is gone, their energy levels have increased, their allergies have decreased, they don't have erectile dysfunction anymore, their cancer has been abated, their arthritis pain has gone away, their chronic fatigue syndrome is gone. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Is that when something is taken away from you that you need and not replaced, and that's an essential part of your diet, you get sick. And it's only, I don't know, 20 years ago, whatever it was, that somebody came up with the idea how to put sulfur back in the diet. And me, I got involved 7 years ago, and I mean, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a crock, and I tried it, and my lifelong asthma is gone, has not come back in over 7 years. There's 23 reversals of autism. There's so much stuff because it detoxes. All this stuff that you're eating is detoxed. But if you keep eating it and you keep taking other stuff to get rid of it, you never get rid of it. So the only way you can get rid of it is not to eat it. It's not rocket science. Go as clean as you can. But organic food is so expensive. Well, so is being a customer of a doctor that you have to go see, and so is being a customer of the pharmaceutical industry by having to go to drugstores to refill your prescriptions. It's what would you do if you could not have to take any more drugs? What would you do if you didn't have to go see a doctor anymore? So sulfur, that was number one. I got involved in a product. Never did I get involved in a product because I felt they were all magic bullets, and magic bullets do not exist. This one did. Okay, then I came in contact with this used car salesman. I can't even remember his name. But anyway, this guy would hawk and rant and rave and blah. I mean, but it was the same thing. So I tried his superfood zeal. I tried that. And what I found was when you do stuff like that, it's not a direct effect. The sulfur is a direct effect because you're going to go through a detox product, like a process that you cannot imagine, but that's what it's good for. And then when that passes, it ain't never going to come back. The sulfur, the zeal, the superfoods, I mean, I still take it. I don't notice anything prolific except that I don't get sick and my energy level is still good. And if I don't get sick, that means I have a strong immune system. And if I have a strong immune system, then the subtlety of the 40 superfoods and the zeal that I'm taking is building my immune system. Then, as fate would have it, I come in contact with another substance. And that was this bee pollen. So, okay, I got a caller, and then I'll get into bee pollen in a second. Hello. Hello.
Yes, so as we get into the bee pollen is one of his supplements promoted as really a standalone.
Oh yeah, this stuff is so amazing, and I never realized it until I did research on it. So what I did was I bought 8 bottles that were almost 1.5 pounds, and they're all gone now. I mean, I didn't eat them. People wanted them, and now they're telling me, when are you going to get more? But the good news is that when you buy this is going to last you months. And it's so incredible for what it does to the body. I mean, you may not notice it right away, but just as things take time to break down the body, things take time to build up the body. You just got to be diligent, you know?
Yeah. Hey, have you heard Hesh, or maybe have you tried, because it's been here for a while here, have you tried to go into the energy field?
If I could get an atomic bomb, I would drop it on
myself. Okay, no, seriously.
Not that. Oh, no.
Seriously, you haven't?
No, I have not.
Check it out. This Dr. Shintani is affiliated with this, and what brought his attention to this was the evidence, physiological evidence of the performance of blood vessels when subjected to this energy field.
What kind of energy field are we talking about?
You will be in a room where the it's
like you're exposed to
it's synchronized with the natural magnetic field of the Earth.
Interesting. I'll have to talk to him about that.
Yeah, do it. If you get a chance, ask him about that. And he will know what you're talking about. You can go for free.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with him because I like Terry. He's a good guy.
Yeah, very ethical, very knowledgeable.
Yeah,
very scientific.
He's one of the good guys out there.
Yeah.
And it didn't go to his head. That's the thing I like.
Yeah.
He's still a down-home local guy, real mellow, real easy, not arrogant, not puffed up. I like that.
Right, exactly. But you gotta love that the blend of just first-rate scientific mind and knowledge combined with as we say here in Hawaii, humility.
Yeah.
So, I
thought you were laughing at one of my jokes. No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, I know. And then after you tried, go let us know. One guy told his story. He had a long-time shoulder injury.
Yeah.
With chronic pain, and when he went into the field, he didn't notice it until the next morning that the stiffness and soreness was,
Yeah, I'll contact him.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll call him. He's on the air, I think, tomorrow night.
Sunday nights, yeah. Right.
Yeah, maybe I'll give him a call tomorrow night.
Yeah.
8 o'clock tomorrow night. I'll give him a call.
Right.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, aloha.
Aloha.
And now, the winner is? Yeah, you're on.
Here. All right. Yeah, it's an energy enhancement field, and it's something that was developed by somebody named Dr. Sandra Rose Michaels. And basically what it is, it's a scalar wave energy field. There's a system where you sit in a room, and they have these energy waves that are situated like in 4 corners of the room, and they're calibrated in such a way so that when the waves kind of counter each other and kind of cancel each other out. So what happens is you wind up having the energy in the room without there being any vector or direction to the wave. So that's what a scalar wave is.
Where do you have access to that?
I think they have them at his office, and I think they're over in Kukui Plaza. And they have, like, about once a month or so, they go up to, I forget what it's called now, but it's the old Mokidia Gotcha.
I'm going to call him, I'll call him tomorrow night and find out.
And you go in there and you sit in the wave. But I really don't know what I think of it. But I will say this, and I can say this is as objective as I can get about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I engineer Terry Shintani's show.
Yes.
I sit there. I've known him and sat in a room with him once a week for 9 years.
Right.
Okay. When I first met him, when I first started working here, he had some surgery on his neck.
I remember that. Yep.
As a byproduct of that, he had this rash on his arm. Okay, and it just was there for years.
Yeah. Years
and years. About 6 months. Now they have it in this they have it in their office, and they actually work in the chamber. They get to spend a lot of time in there.
Yeah.
It cleared up the rash on his arm. I mean, I don't know whether it's the machine or not, but
yeah,
in the world of things that happen, that definitely did happen. It was there for years. I mean, 6, 7 years. And then suddenly he gets this thing installed, and maybe, let's say, 4 to 6 months, the rash is gone. The other thing...
Can you put it in your house?
Yeah, it's expensive, but it can be done, and you cannot move it. Once it's installed, because it's calibrated, it is where it is.
Right.
So you can't move it around. And it's sensitive enough that you really do have to have it professionally installed.
Yeah, right.
They have one over at the School of Medicine, an alternative medicine. They have one over there.
At DOH?
Yeah. And like I say, Hawaii Health Foundation will put on a seminar once a month or so.
If you want to go to Terry's office, does he charge for that?
I don't think he does at the university. It might be his income generation at the Hawaii Health Foundation.
I'll contact because I like to. Because I would be a good Because right now I got two things that I'm feeling that I can't get rid of.
I think you have to go in there consistently. But once again,
Yeah,
the other thing, like I said, I know, like I said, I sit across from him
Yeah.
once a week for 9 years. I know what the man looks like. His hair is darker. I mean, for whatever it's worth, the gray is gone from his hair.
Wow. Interesting.
He says his eyesight's gotten better.
Wow,
Which, I
interesting.
mean, and last but not least, I guess he sustained a leg injury somewhere during the course
Yeah.
of and
That's
he had a
gone.
bad time walking around. And he can walk a few blocks and what's more, play basketball.
No kidding.
So, I mean, for whatever it's worth,
Yeah, I'm
And,
going
you
to
know,
call him. I'm going to try to find out.
I've heard people say a lot of things, and if you take a look at what scalar wave is, you look at it on the internet, you're going to find
What's it
you're
called?
Gonna, it's called an energy enhancement system or an energy enhancement field.
enhancement.
And you sit
Okay.
in a chamber, but basically what it is it's a PC that has a wave generator in four corners of the room. They're
Right.
set precisely across from each other, so that the waves cancel each other out
Right, so-
as they go through.
right.
So
you get it in a proper
so the energy kind of
alignment.
disperses in the room. It's a very shorthand way of describing what happens, but
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
I'll
it is. Because
contact him.
I've heard Terry talk about it for years, and actually I interviewed him on another radio station about it one day. So
Yeah, I'll talk to him for sure.
so but that's basically what it is. Well, it's a scalar wave generator. That's what it is.
Trippy.
It's invented by Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. Dr.
Energy
Shintani has one
energy
at the School of
enhancement.
Medicine, and I think he has one over at the Hawaii Health Foundation. He's started doing the scientific work and doing the objective studies, and I think he's presented papers around. He's starting to release results and things like that.
I'll find out.
I think he's traveled over to Japan to do some
I'll
of that
find
work
out.
too.
I'm going to
So,
contact him.
for those who are interested in what that is, and like I say, about once a month or so, the Hawaii Health Foundation has a seminar where you come in and check out the machine. You can sit in it. And that's free. And then you can decide what you want to do.
Far
And
out,
if
man.
you come back again, you want to see it again, you just have to bring a friend.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What a trip. Okay, so I left off with bee pollen. Now, what makes bee pollen so incredible is that it is rich in protein, vitamins, minerals, beneficial fatty acids, carotenoids, bioflavonoids, which are antiviral, antibacterial, and help to lower cholesterol, stabilize and strengthen the capillaries, and is the only plant source that is rich in all B vitamins, including vitamin B12. Now, if the pollen is fresh, which the one that I get is, it delivers at least 20 amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein needed to build all the cells in the body, including the blood, skin, organs, and bones. And in conjunction with the organic sulfur crystals, which also creates vitamin B12 in the body, your body will not believe the win-win situation it has been put into. Okay. Now, furthermore, the bee pollen aids in weight control because it's low in calories and contains natural phenylalanine, which aids as an appetite suppressant, and non-GMO lecithin that dissolves and flushes the fat from the body. Now, this is just for openers. Now, because of the amazing nutrients contained, it becomes a natural energizer with the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the B vitamins, keeping you going all day long due to building stamina and fighting off fatigue. So as the sulfur crystals aid in the skin irritations like eczema and psoriasis, the bee pollen is also used in topical products that treat inflammatory conditions and skin irritations. And then, because of the amino acids and the vitamins contained therein, the bee pollen protects the skin and helps to regenerate the cells. Then the high amounts of antioxidants helps the respiratory system because of the anti-inflammatory effect on the lungs. And because histamine is guilty of helping allergies flourish, the bee pollen reduces the histamine, reducing or eliminating allergies. I mean, okay, then the enzymes make sure the body get all the nutrients from the food. But because the bee pollen contains so many enzymes, in addition to all the helpful vitamins, minerals, and proteins, your body has fewer digestive problems. I mean, do you understand what we're talking about? Do you know what rutin is? Rutin is an antioxidant bioflavonoid that strengthens the capillaries and the blood vessels and helps with circulatory problems, corrects cholesterol levels. And because of bee pollen's anti-clotting ability, it helps prevent heart attacks and strokes. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I got involved because I think this stuff is the most amazing stuff. In conjunction with the organic sulfur crystals and the zeal that I take, I don't have any problems. I mean, I do have a couple of problems because I'm getting older and I'm very active athletically, and sometimes I get a couple of muscle pains and whatever happens that comes my way. But, I'm working it out. And the way, the sulfur we know about, you can order it through my website. If you're interested in the bee pollen, just send me an email, heshgoldstein@gmail.com, heshgoldstein@gmail.com, or just give me a call, 258-1177. If you were to buy the same amount in a store, you would be paying $50. I sell it for $30. If I have to mail it, you got to add another $6 onto it. But I'm telling you, if you can change your diet to a plant-based diet, if you can start taking some of these things that will help your body and not hurt your body, you're extending your lifespan. And what could be worse, This is the way it goes. And I'm not here to try to rake in money or hook you or do anything like that. That's not my purpose for doing a radio show. My purpose for doing my radio show is that we are all brothers and sisters. And as such, I want to help my family. That's why I went on the radio in 1981. No sponsors. I pay for my own airtime. You want to buy into what I'm talking about? You won't be sorry. You don't want to buy into what I'm talking about? Then you got no one to blame but yourself. Anyway, I'm glad I'm back. I'll catch you guys all next week, and I wish you all the best. Aloha.